working on my core. I wanted to show that off on the camera.
I have not. So we got a character that's near and dear to your heart. We got Melina coming up.
Oh, I love her.
Takeda. So and just so you know real quick, we're going to go through these matchups, and then we're going to go back to the character select screen and just kind of talk about a few other characters.
Yep.
We'll go through that way, okay?
So, Melina. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys.
Well, the big thing is her back one, both in piercing and in no variation, is now a high attack.
Okay.
It's actually been sped up, but yeah, it's now high to give people a better chance to kind of poke back. Before, she kind of dominated this mid-range game, but now the opponent will be able to do they're down 4, they're down 3. Sure. A little bit easier.
Yeah, some of that will open up her moveset where there's reasons to use other buttons. And because it's actually faster, she can actually use it as more of like a guaranteed punishment after some moves, or sometimes she had trouble punishing stuff around like the 9 to 10 frame range. And it'll also make it easier to jail somebody after a lot of her things leave you standing. Now you can jail with the back one into block pressure, and then same thing with going into the low side.
So after we put out the GIF, right, people were like, oh my gosh, you're not allowed to combo off the normal ball anymore.
Right.
What can you explain or show us what's going on
That
there?
seems like random conjecture.
It seems like just stuff people are making up.
Yeah, it turns out that wasn't the case at all. The actual GIF was about EX roll. So this is EX roll normally now. She does not get a combo.
So you do not get a combo.
It's still an overhead, it's still pretty good damage, but you do not get a combo. It still has armor.
Right, so it kind of follows the new rules that we're kind of going with.
But similar to her sister, she can now meter burn it and roll backwards. So for 2 bars, you still get your combo.
Yeah, her ugly stepsister, you're right. And then moving on.
Damn.
Just saying, I'm just saying.
Okay, that's rough.
I'm throwing it out there.
What else? Is that all we got from Melina?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
She has some damage. She has some overall combo damage scaling changes where it'll bring down the overall combos a little bit, but it still does comparable damage. It's something in the small percentages, but it'll keep the higher combos that are in the 50 ranges and bring them down a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Takeda.
Takeda?
I say Takeda.
Takeda?
Steve, what do you say?
Takeda.
My dad who says Takeda?
No, I say Takeda.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the only thing we patch is how we pronounce the name.
Alright, moving on.
So, what do we got here, guys?
So this is another one where his back two overhead is a little bit slower startup. It should be a little bit easier to see it coming and react to it. When he has the, I can't figure out how to even drop the blade. When he's got the blade out, when you do the quick call, it still recovers very quickly and the combos are still the same. But if the opponent's blocking, there's some additional recovery frames in there. If you do the quick call while the opponent's in blocking, block stun.
We would have had to change the name if it was no longer quick call.
Yeah, it's still pretty quick. It's just not as quick if the opponent's blocking.
Sure.
Now that it's
Great.
Well, we weren't going to make it slow call.
no.
Right.
No.
It's not going to be called slow call.
Right.
We could have just been call.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course, like we said, there's definitely some other things you'll see.
Yeah, there were some hitbox adjustments and like things on like his back one. It has a little bit less range. So there were a couple of instances where there were some characters where he could keep locked down in the corner where now it'll be pushed back a little bit after one loop of it. And stuff like that's been done generally across the board with other characters too.
And in his other variations, his tri-kunai block stun has been changed a little bit. So he won't get guaranteed like forward one and stuff off of it.
And some of those, like people think that those are going to be drastic changes now where it's going to be sort of a gamble for you to go on your offense, but because of all the other overall armor changes, it sort of balances itself out. But it makes the game a lot more even where it's a lot more of just knowing what your opponent's going to do and feeling out your opponent.
Right, like he'll still be an advantage on these quick call mix-ups, but they can armor now, but if he reads the armor, he can punish it, and if he's wrong, the reward for their armor won't be as strong. And another one is, he's another character that had launching armor that he can now use 2 bars to do it. So his back forward 2
but it doesn't launch normally the EX. But you can still go and enhance the enhanced move already. So you can like double spend your meter and to still get a combo. So there's a few exception characters that can get like armored moves that can get off, but then it'll take 2 bars to do it. And some of his combo damage has been brought down a little bit too, so you don't get as much damage overall for it.
So you can meter burn some EXs now to get a pop-up or follow-up combo.
We'll see some more of those later too.
Absolutely.
Next one, this will be a fun one for everybody. Kung Jin.
And Boraicho!
Boraicho. Dragon's Breath and Shaolin.
I saw a lot of people calling for some Shaolin buffs. Did this happen?
I think I saw one person.
Yeah.
Okay, it really was one person, but I follow him, so I was like, okay. Yeah, okay, yes, you're right. All right. Sorry. Try to be, sneaky about it.
Similar to other characters that had a really, really fast overhead, his has been slowed down a little bit. And for Shaolin, one of the big changes is the damage and the block stun on his up flip and the drop. Before you'd see a lot of just doing overhead or low into this constantly, and there wasn't a lot to do about it. There wasn't a lot you could do about it. So one of the things we did is, if he does not delay it, if he just does it as fast as possible, it will now be pretty easy to punish. Any character in the game can just go for a punish. But if you delay it, it will go back to being safe, but then they can armor through it. Or you could just do this by itself, which is punishable. So there's like 3 different layers of a guessing game. So it's more of, instead of Kung Jin just do it. Now they have to think a little bit about what they're going to do, and you have to think about what they're going to do. So Tyler does the non-delay, and I punish it, but then he goes for the delay, but I wasn't ready, so I didn't armor the gap, and then back and forth, and there's many Yomi layers there. It gets to like level 7.
Why did you bring me up when it comes to Kung Jin?
Did you guys actually do this before?
No, I'm usually the one playing Kung Jin.
Alright. Interesting.
And in Bojutsu, you'll see a lot of little fun changes too. Like, the EX SWAT doesn't have armor anymore, but like Paula was saying, some of those EX moves have now been buffed in other ways. So it's now actually advantage on block. I think it's +3 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's got very slow startup, so there's a gap where they can go and backdash out of it or try to use their own armor to get through it. But because of a lot of the strings where you can start with the over to the low, he can now go into that move and it'll be plus a block, but there's a gap there. So it gives a little bit more of a guessing game, and then it should help some characters be able to defend against it.
And then in Ancestral, pretty much all the arrows have been improved.
Yeah, there's increased block stun on most of them and pushback, especially on the flame arrows. So he'll be able to like sort of use the arrows to keep people out, and also Ancestral actually had some decent combo damage, and it still is keeping most of that combo damage. And then there's been some combo damage reduction on Bojutsu and Shaolin, so it should bring its 3 variations more on par with each other.
Oh, awesome. Now, I will say this. I did get a lot of tweets about Bo Raicho. Would you agree with that?
Yes, Master Bo Raicho, Master of Combat.
That's Goro.
No, he actually, his bio says, Bo Raicho, Master of Combat.
Well,
Learn the damn game, Tyler!
Bo Raicho? Goro's Master of Combat too?
Why can't there be 2 Masters of Combat?
But then Goro loses to Lao.
Okay, you know what? Let's...
Goro lost to Liu Kang in canon, who was trained by known master Bo Raicho.
You know what? I gotta take that. I gotta hold that.
He Kung Lao lost to Liu Kang, but Baraicho's the Master of Combat.
Weird, right?
He's a master, man!
Let's see what he does now.
The thing about Bo Raicho is his offense was always great. I don't think anyone really disputes that. When he gets you in the corner and he starts going in, it's very overwhelming. Very, very good stuff. But
dropping that gas.
Yeah. You know, the meaty. He starts doing the meaty farts and the ignited farts, and he can really open you up. But he kind of struggled against zoning, so we wanted to give him a little bit of help against that. He can now use his Dragon Breath thing and absorb a fireball. And then in Bartitsu, you saw in the GIF we tweeted that the little spinning cane will blow up projectiles too. And this works against almost every projectile in the game.
Yeah, even some enhanced ones and even some bigger projectiles. And so in general, you can sort of just, and this move recovers a little quicker too, so you can sort of just whip it out to sort of build meter by just like trying to like dance around and play your opponent and then pick your spots to get in. His forward dash is a little bit quicker now. It recovers some frames faster than most other ones. It's actually one of the faster ones in the game. Same thing with his back dash. It recovers a little quicker, so you can, if he's trying to back dash out of your gaps, he'll actually be, a lot of times be recovered safe enough to actually punish back. And the same thing with his run into starts up a few more frames faster than it did before, so you can sort of get in. So it sort of lets you pick your spots to get in. And then once you get in, his offense is still the same as it was, which was really good.
It's like I capped his running. That's what it looks like to me.
It does, yeah, you're right. Although I don't think anybody's ever seen you run, I believe you.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of like just general bug fixes, like if you did the gas move and it hit the opponent on the last frame, they were actually able to block. So there was actually like a bunch of like small bug fixes here and there that should help characters out too. And some of those are covered in the patch notes.
Awesome.
Let's move on to, we got, this will be a fun one. One of my favorites, and one of my least favorites to fight against. Shinnok and Cage.
Which is which?
We're going to do...
which one do you hate to fight against?
Right. I like Cage, I don't like fighting against
Okay, there you go.
I'm going to say this right now on stream. When I go to the ESL events, I've played against a ton of the top players, you know? I've taken some rounds, maybe a couple games, not very much.
Even Sonic.
I've taken a round off of Sonic.
Even Sonic.
That's all
better than a lot of people.
That's true.
He's going to tweet that I haven't, but I have. He might have been giving it to me.
And he can hold that.
I will say this. Wound Cowboy Shinnok was the most frustrating thing I ever played against.
So the big thing about Shinnok is he's one of the characters where his block advantage was toned down on his EX skulls. They're now only +5 on block. And, so that's a big negative for him, but he also got some little pluses in other areas to make some of his lesser used moves a little bit better. Like his 4-3 now has noticeably better range. His amulet is now significantly safer on block and has better recovery. So like Bow Ride Show, it can destroy projectiles, but the recovery was always pretty long. Now the recovery is a lot better, so it's more viable.
Oh, do it again.
Yeah. It always had this ability, but the recovery kind of made it not worth doing. So now it's a lot better.
He can always do that?
Yeah. He's been able to do it for a while.
Whoops. I knew that. Remember that there?
Yeah, you used to do it to me all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Moving on.
And then there's a lot of changes throughout. So for Imposter, this used to grant a long hit advantage where he could actually steal a move, waste the move on purpose, and then go for another move into what we'd call a vortex, which is just a scenario where you have no option but to guess right. That's now kind of been normalized, so at the end of a combo, he won't have as much time once he steals a move before you can recover.
Awesome.
He's still going to be an advantage, but it won't be like the 800 frames of advantage he used to be.
Yeah, it's essentially he'll just have to. He can just sort of do the fastest move he can as quick, and then still get you with like a throw or a forward 4. But he won't be able to like jump over and do all the kind of shenanigans he used to do before. Same thing with teleport.
Shenanigans. Those are the worst.
And then in Bone Shaper, his Fireball is now -9 instead of -12.
Oh, bro, you're going off script, man.
Whoa.
Good move. I like it.
And you're not a Bone Shaper.
I know, I just wanted to say that. I'm going to show Necromancer.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So Necromancer, the big change, we kind of hinted at it. Well, actually, we just kind of showed it. Is that he can cancel his Bone Hands, the Stomp. Is it a Stomp if it's a hand? Or does that specifically have to be a leg?
What's the move list say?
Judgment Fist.
Yeah, no, it's
So it's like a
clearly a judgment.
Okay, well, he's judging you with this Bone Hand Fist.
The
You
hand
cannot
stomp.
cancel this.
Yeah, so a lot of times if somebody's going to run in and they're going to do like an advancing move to punish you, now you can backdash it and cancel it and punish it. Or just sort of fake your opponent out. And use it to go a little bit of damage.
Awesome. Anything else around there you want to go over? Or should we hit Johnny Cage?
I think we're ready for Johnny Cage.
All right. Fist the buffs.
Johnny Cage can do this.
All right, moving on. Next. Okay,
Pretty
dokie.
cool.
Yeah.
What does that do for him?
So that'll actually let you cancel your fisticuffs into any other string or special move. So if you go into something like that and do fisticuffs and then do that and cancel it into a string, it actually continues to combos. It's a little bit different than like the other cancels in the game. And the actual frame you can do it is at any point after you've activated, and you can actually delay that a little bit. So you can sort of even use it on blocks. You can do a forward 3 fisticuffs, and then you can enhance it if you think your opponent's going to do something, and then do forward 3 again, or do like a nut punch or a special move, or go into fisticuffs in the corner and force them to block.
But EX Nut Punch,
No longer has armor.
Yeah.
so 90% of my game.
Yeah, would you a nut punch followed by another nut punch? Can you still do that?
You can still
Yeah,
do
you
that.
Oh, well, then your game's still
If
there.
your opponent knows how to block, they'll probably get punished you.
I play Derek a lot, so.
Yep. Right trigger, don't use it.
Speaking of punishing, we didn't talk about counter.
Oh.
I don't know if that
Okay.
was on the notes to cover that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we didn't. Okay, moving on. Is there any other general changes or whatnot, Johnny Cage, you guys want to go over?
You can go stunt double.
Yeah, Stunt Double, when you have a mix out and you do the EX Shadow Take, that now actually has armor.
Yeah, so he actually has a armored move from full screen when he's in stunt double. The other variations don't have. So it'll sort of even out his variations. He sets some damage adjustments throughout for A-list and stunt double also. So those will do comparable damage. So now there isn't as much of a set. Hey, this variation's better than the other ones. You want to make them all even.
And that's kind of more of a global thing too that you guys have been really working for, is making all the variations pretty much equal versus people kind of just pushing towards one or the other, right?
And like we talked about A-List, a lot of the changes we talked about earlier help bringing him back into comparable range with the others.
Right, like A-List was a character or a variation before that was very, very strong and it had overwhelming offense. But because of the change to stamina, the offense is toned down just a little bit, so it didn't really need to be adjusted that much. And then, like, if it's a character that zones out Johnny Cage really bad and you really want extra armor, that's another reason to use Stun Double.
Sure.
Yeah, there was a time where maybe picking A-List, if you had high execution,
Right,
like
exactly.
a person like myself, for instance,
Right.
you would only play A-List. There's
Right.
no choice. Now I play the other ones to show people that there are other ways.
And there was a rumor also that his down 2 also is a little bit improved as well.
That is one of the ones that's...
Yeah, it used to be.
There was a rumor. I wasn't sure.
It was very
if
hard
it's
to
true.
uppercut people. Where it's a little bit easier now to uppercut people with him. With a lot of other characters too.
Cool.
Awesome.
This will be a good one here. I've said that about all of them.
Well, they're all wonderful,
They really
but
are.
this one's probably the best.
Well, there's 2 more.
Okay, I'll wait till the last one. That one will be the best.
Duelist Liu Kang versus Venomous Devourer.
Alright.
So Duelist, in the GIF you could see, the idea is he can, when he has a red orb out, he can then go back to light stance and shoot a light fireball and it will ignite. It'll actually blow up and launch the opponent.
Yo, can I do some real rap right now?
Yeah.
Real talk.
This is a hot
rap.
take.
Here we
This
go.
is a hot
This
take.
is a hot take. I play this game a lot. You know that I play a lot of different characters, probably to my undoing.
Yeah.
I know literally nothing about Duelist Liu Kang.
Well, now you're going to learn something.
That's my hot
So
take.
this is exciting.
That's my hot take.
So the hot take was that you don't know what you're talking about with Duelist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was. So Duelist has 2 different... No, never mind. You can just...
Duelist also does dot damage when they're hovering or when they're standing near the orbs.
Dark Orbs.
And also
Right.
stop them from running in. So a lot of times if you have an orb stop, people sort of just ran in and just punished you or just ran over you when you put the orbs out. Now if there's an orb out, it's actually going to stop them from running. So you'll sort of have to get past the orb then to move in.
Similar
And
to
you
the
can-
Caltrops.
And then if he shoots fireball and you happen to block the orb, he's going to be advantaged on block from that exploded fireball. So it sort of gives Duelist a little bit of a keep away game, but then also keeps his very strong pressure.
Awesome.
And then Liu Kang is another character, and Duelist is another variation that benefits from some of the universal changes, which is why, there's only these specific changes rather than, a huge list of buffs.
Right.
So since armor's not as strong, his pressure is inherently better.
Sure. And then, anything you guys want to talk about with Flame Fists that have changed?
It's got some small changes where if you do the enhanced windmill punches, there's a few more frames before you can cancel out. That should give the opponent, be able to either backdash or do an armored move out of the next attack, where before you can sort of just jail somebody into some non-stop block pressure and do a bunch of chip damage. So that's been toned down a little bit.
Flame Fist also had a couple of strings that had a special ender only in Flame Fist that were previously they looked like his back 2 overhead, but they were actually just mid. They're now actual overheads.
Oh, wow.
So you could do a little fun mix-up of 4-4 standing 2 or 4-4 low fireball, and it just kind of makes sense that his back 2 was an overhead and now those are 2.
That's cool. Very good. So, Venomous, folks.
The big thing about Venomous is her EX Bug Burst move has basically been redone as a big burst. Instead of being able to hold it, it just does burst damage. I think it does 13%. And then it actually has armor, because one of Devore's weaknesses across all variations was her armor was among the weaker in the game. So now Venomous has this big, bright, buggy bullet point that it has her best armored move. And it's a safe on block armor move that does a pretty good chunk of damage.
Yeah, and along with the run changes, it'll give you a little bit of reason to at least look at Venomous as opposed to Swarm Queen, where Swarm Queen has been hit by some of the overall just run damage changes, where Venomous relies on just other stuff for her damage. So it should give people a reason to pick some of the other two very good.
And there's a few tweaks that you can read about for Broodmother 2 that are similar.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Well, we got one more match to show you. Then we're gonna go.
This one's the best.
We forgot one Devore thing.
Okay.
Devore 2 is now a mid attack.
Okay.
That's
How are you supposed to open something up?
Well, that's the thing. This is a good example of kind of trying to expand their move list, because her forward 3 was always a pretty good overhead. But you would never really use it because her forward 2 covered her mid-range game and was her overhead.
Sure.
Now that's still a great, fast, long-range move, but it's not an overhead. So you have to actually use her forward 3 more than you did before.
Yeah, and then going into that on block and some stuff with Swarm Queen, it'll give the opponent at least a window to be able to try to do something or to backdash the next thing.
Looking through Twitch chat, hot take.
Hot take.
Duelist now broken.
Oh.
They say he's the best in the game now.
He's the best
that
in the
long
game
for
now?
See, look at that tier list. It's just...
Alright.
Tier list is already made.
Shift.
Warlock Quan Chi versus one of my favorites, Quantum Warrior Goro.
Prince Goro.
Prince, the master of combat.
Former champion of Mortal Kombat for 9 generations.
How long is a generation?
A long time. I
Okay.
mean, he is very old.
Okay.
He was undefeated for exactly 500 years.
500. So I guess it's, about 9 generations.
I forgot about Steve's lower corner.
Oh yeah,
That's-
it's
That
hot
was
today.
10 more minute.
All right, so let's get started with Quan Chi.
All right, so the big thing that made everyone freak out is back 2 is no longer an overhead. It is a mid. If you charge it, it's still an overhead. But just normally, this strategy of just doing this and then doing meter burn runes, that why not strategy has changed. That's gone.
Yeah, and that move had a very long reach and it was very
Right.
quick. It was
So
one of
similar-
actually, being a mid, it's one of the fastest mids in the game. It's supposed to be one of the fastest overheads in the game.
Sure.
So similar to the Devora change, it's not that we, don't want you to use this, but maybe think more about using it for its range and not the fact that it's an overhead. But
What?
this is the context. Context spelled with a K.
Oh.
Forward 4 is now an overhead.
Oh.
Forward 4 is a few frames slower on startup, so
And you gotta be close.
yeah, you gotta be
Right.
close. So it doesn't have the range, but you can sort of still have that overhead option, but the opponent can sort of see that one coming and block it.
And forward 4 into the runes has a gap. So it doesn't have the range it used to have, and you can now armor through it, but he still is, a good mix-up character.
Awesome.
So everybody calm down,
Yeah, just relax.
relax.
You're on like DEFCON 4.
Right.
And then there's a new sword stab.
It's just the sword staff now has 2 hits of armor on it, so he actually has a good armor move. There's something to do from max range that the other variations don't have. So like the stomp is still a pretty slow armored move, where in this variation it has a still pretty fast armor move with the sword stab, because the other scoop, the enhanced low scoop, still launches, so it doesn't have armor on it anymore.
Sure.
It actually has 3 hits of armor.
What?
Yeah, one of the very rare exceptions. That's wacky, yeah. 3 hits of armor.
Tell me again.
He's a wizard, man.
Yeah, makes sense.
Master of Combat Goro.
Goro is one of the characters that really benefited from looking through the move list and seeing moves that could be sped up a little bit or made safer. He's got a bunch of them. His forward 2 is now faster. His 2-1-4 string is now safer. His forward 3 has a noticeable range increase. Yeah, you can see. So that'll be really, really good in that kind of jump mid-range game. His fireball has been made significantly faster, including the EX1. Yeah, you can see it's definitely a lot faster. And when the patch notes come out, you can see there's like, 5 or 6 different little frame changes and range changes that we made to his normal attacks.
Yeah, and if you block his enhanced punch walk, all 6 hits will actually come on block now, doing a good amount of chip damage, but that's unsafe on block. But then you can go and enhance it and then spend some meter to become a little bit of an advantage on block. So he still has that rushing out punch walk game, but it's just you're going to have to spend your meter to do it. And he still has a very good armored move in the punch walk, but then he's going to have to spend additional bars to juggle you one.
So corner carry got a little better, even would you say?
Yeah.
And another thing, just like we talked about earlier, the down-up moves that have gotten easier to do. Now, pulling off Goro's EX stomp is easier.
That should be a little bit easier. Same thing we're doing on wake up, where
Yeah.
if you hit down before when you're doing the block and you do like down first, your chance of getting a delayed wake up are reduced a little bit.
Okay.
And he's another character that will have 2 hits of armor on more than one of his moves. A couple of his different moves have 2 hits of armor, including the stomp.
Yeah, and his command grab and stuff too. Yeah.
Right.
So he's
And
still
the
very
chest
good at
lunge.
close. Yeah.
So it's kind of like the armor. It's no longer his armor game is no longer just punch walk, punch walk, punch walk. Why are you doing anything but punch walk? It's now his armor will be spread around like 5 different moves that'll be pretty good to use.
Yeah, and there'll be different reasons for using each one.
Exactly. And it's not just Quatan Warrior. Tigrar Fury had similar changes to the recovery of his fireball, his EX breath, and there's various little changes that'll help the high level players.
Awesome.
Let's go to the character select screen real quickly before we close this out and kind of go over just some characters we missed. Just there's some things like they're getting changes, but we can't really show them.
Jackie, similar to Goro, there's nothing interesting to really show, but there's a whole bunch of little minutia over frame data.
Any big changes for say Triborg?
Triborg's overhead, like a lot of them, has been slowed down a little bit. I think it's now like 21. The forward 1-3 string now has more cancel advantage. So you can see in our GIF, you can now do forward 1-3, and then the freeze blast will actually combo.
Sure.
He also had a lot of bug fixes where with Sub-Zero and with Cyrax, if you were frozen by his net and then he blocked any kind of delayed move on the same frame, the opponent actually got out like instantly. So a lot of our designers have actually been fixing a lot of bugs we've seen over like since the last patch, and they've been working hard to fix some of those bugs. And a lot of those bug fixes are in this patch.
Did Devora get any bug fixes?
Because she has bugs, people.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Another thing with smoke, his smoke bomb now only hits like absolutely on the ground. So if you make the read that he's going to do it and you jump over it, you will not be caught. So while his like 50-50 game is still really good, the risk is a little bit higher than it used to be. So like if he does back one smoke bomb and you don't want to armor through it, you can either jump over him, and some people can actually punish him with a neutral jump punch, or maybe jump over him and get your pressure going.
Yeah, if you have a dive kick, you do an instant dive kick. It's sort of like, because the back one's a little slower now too, you can sort of see that coming, block it, and then you see he's going to do a smoke bomb and jump out.
I think, to me, the big change with these overheads being slower is they're still great, but when you compare that with the stamina change, it'll make running up and doing your overhead less viable of a strategy, and that opens up your move list. Like, if you look at a character like Cassie, her 4-3 was extremely fast, so she could just run up and do it. It was very, very hard to react. Now her 4-3 is a little bit slower, and, it takes more to start running, and it's more risky to start running. So she's going to have to condition you in the mid-range with her back one, or her jump in, or her down 4, and not just run up and immediately go for her best tool.
What about my main man, Kano?
Oh, that could have been anybody for a second.
Yeah, it really
right?
could have been.
Oh,
My main man, Predator.
Cutthroat was the main that was adjusted. His back one now, only the first hit will come out on block. If he does back 1, 2-1, only the first hit comes out. And that's, I think, minus 15 now. So he no longer got he used to get the strategy. He would do his overhead, then he would go into the EX pump up, and he would continue to make you guess. Now his overhead is still, it's still a good move that does good damage, but his turn is over, and now you can kind of counter him.
Yeah, like some other characters, if your opponent's blocking or in block stun, when you go to do the pump up buff move, Kano will actually be at some more disadvantage on block. So there's some additional recovery frames on it where he'll still be plus. He just won't be plus in the double numbers and force you to sort of get higher low mix-ups on top of higher low mix-ups.
Commando,
his armor moves have 2 hits of armor, the grabs, the choke, and then they're pretty much the same, and he's part of that philosophy of Commando Kano. What was his real flaws is that there wasn't a lot of reason to pick him. But now, if armored launchers have been drastically toned down, doing that, 20% damage of those throws is now a much better reward than you would normally get.
Yeah, which depends on what your opponent's doing too. Where the other 2 current variations don't have 2 hits armor on something.
Right.
So that'll give you a reason to play Commando. The Commando still hurts more than the other 2 Kano.
What about, say, Master of Storms?
Master of Storms, the damage, the proximity damage that it does when you're standing over one of the traps, that damage has actually been doubled, so it's quite a bit of a damage increase. And Raven overall has had a bunch of just overall adjustments on his basic attacks. So there's a lot of moves that are either safer on block or have more pushback. So that'll let you sort of overall play with his buttons while setting up the traps. And also helps the other 2 Raven variations also.
I also realized we forgot a major Lord Shinnok change.
Oh.
The EX shoulder still has armor, but the little energy blast at the end is no longer part of it. You now can meter burn that, and it'll actually pop you up for a combo. So like Katana, Melina, and a few other characters, Takeda, he can do his EX move to have armor, EX shoulder, and then if it hits, meter burn it, and you can get a combo. And he can do that with his regular as well. So it'll be a guessing game. Like, he can do his low into the shoulder, and then you can punish it. But if he thinks you're going to punish it, he can meter burn it. But if he meter burns it, he uses resources, and there's a whole guessing game involved.
I'm already lost. I'm already lost on that.
And there's a gap there too to add some questions.
Okay, great, yeah, all right. And one more? Do we want to do one more?
We can keep going forever if you want.
We could go
Ermac.
Oh, Ermac's a good one.
There it is. I knew I had a good one.
He's another overhead that's been slowed down. I think it's a 16 frame startup now. So again, you saw a lot of Ermac players where they were just using the overhead both in their mid-range game and as an overhead. So now as an overhead, it's not quite as good as it used to be, but it'll open up using his other normal attacks. His EX push in Mystic is a safe move that steals life and health, and it had massive pushback. The pushback's been adjusted just a little bit, so that you're a little bit closer. So it's still safe. It's still a tremendous armored move, which it should be. He's a defensive character, but now he's a little bit closer when he blocks it, so you can kind of counter poke him back.
Okay.
And he's had a lot of damage scaling adjustments.
Yeah.
I feel like that. Do you feel good about that for now?
Yeah, a lot of it is just I'm sure people are excited to get these patch
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah.
and just
So the
dive into
quicker
it.
we get done here, the quicker I can get the patch notes put up.
There it is.
But we do have a belt battle.
Battle.
Are you guys ready with these changes? Like, it's just gonna be.
That's
rolling?
funny. That's funny that you say it.